David, you've talked in the past about how Memorial Day is the first time you really take a hard look and evaluate the team. Now that we're past that, what is your evaluation of what has happened so far this year?
Yeah, we have not had a good year so far. There's no question. We're not where we thought we would be. We've dug ourselves a hole. It's not an insurmountable hole, but it is definitely a hole, and we're going to have to play a lot better baseball to do what we want to do this year.
When you talked to us before the season started, one of the things you had said was you were optimistic for three reasons. One, because of the high-end talent on the team. Two, because of these young veterans that you thought were going to take a leap. And then three, some of the talent bubbling up in the minors. Why do you think those first two ones, obviously Benj and Ewing, they perform well, but why do you think you haven't gotten what you expected out of those first two reasons?
Yeah, I think a combination of on some of that high-end talent just hasn't played. There have been significant injuries to some of our best players, and some players who throughout their careers have been extraordinarily durable, and we've got some injury and illness. And then we've clearly had some players who we thought and still think are capable of taking that next step forward in their careers. And we haven't quite seen that yet. Doesn't mean we won't, or they're not capable of it. But we haven't. And so that combination on those two elements certainly has contributed to where we are right now.
Will?
Hey, David, on that part of it, you've had guys like Mark Vientos, who had a good 2024. Beatty had a strong second half last year. Other guys, whether it's Sean Manaea, Kodai Sega, how do you fix that where it's those guys are having that high-end success, high-end production, but they're not sustaining it here?
I think it's very difficult to lump all of that into one. I think on each of those situations, and really any player who demonstrates a level of inconsistency over multiple years or over their careers, there are probably individual reasons for each of those players. Candidly, I think in certain of the situations we've encountered, we think we know the reasons and are working, and in certain cases we don't. And that's the reality of baseball. It's the reality of player evaluation. It's the reality of trying to help players get the most out of themselves and the most out of any individual team. And so I don't think there's one overarching reason that impacts that entire group.
John?
How much of it do you think are the injuries? There are 4 starters out now. Can we say that's the primary cause of the underperformance, or is it just guys not playing up to their capability?
I don't know that I can sit here and say it's X percent of the cause, but it's had an impact. We're not going to run away from that. We've had an enormous amount of potential impact in our lineup on the IL pretty much for the entire season. That has put some other players in positions that we did not expect them to be in, take impact and regular playing time at times that we didn't expect players to be in. So it's had an impact. It's also our responsibility to overcome that, and we need to do that. We believe that we have the talent to be a very good offensive team, and we still believe that.
Left.
David, when you see mental mistakes like Peterson not backing up third, or any, not to single that out, any other mental mistakes, do you worry that the coaching staff is not getting through to the players?
I think our coaching staff does a really good job, and look on the PD one in particular, that's a pretty heady player. He was frustrated, but that's a pretty heady player who generally does a really good job with those types of things, and so I wouldn't read too much into that.
And then separately from that, at what point, as somebody mentioned being past Memorial Day at this point, that's kind of like a marker. At what point do you have to look at who on your roster could be traded?
Yeah, we're not there yet. We've got time, so we're not there yet.
Mike at the right.
David, as far as the offense, I mean, I know you came into this thinking you had a good amount of depth too and flexibility, but the foundation of the offense was supposed to be the top three guys, Lindor, Bichette, and Soto in some order at the top of the lineup. I think they've played like 9 games together, and it's a long time ago now that they played together. How hard is it for you to evaluate what this offense can do going forward, what you think this offense is going forward until they play together for a while?
Yeah, that's been one of the most frustrating parts of the season. Is we did believe that the top of our order would match any top of order in baseball, and we haven't had those players together. And at various points when we've had elements of that group on the field, we haven't gotten the production that we anticipated. So that has been frustrating. It's been a challenge. We still believe that those are really good players, and when we get them back at the top of the lineup, we'll have a really good top of the lineup.
Chelsea.
Just one more on the coaching staff. Obviously, it's kind of hard to evaluate with all the personnel churn, but to the extent that you can tell what their impact's been so far, like where have you kind of seen the impact of some of those new ideas?
Yeah, I think we've been able to help certain players. We're not always going to be public about it, but we've had certain players at times get a little bit off the rails in their respective disciplines, and I think our staff has done a very nice job of course correcting in certain instances. I also think that the motivation and energy from these players remains very high, and I understand there's frustration everywhere. There's exasperation. Like we all get that, but our players are playing hard, and they care and they compete, and that's a reflection on them and on our coaches.
And then just separately, how would you describe what you guys are having to do to kind of manage the rotation right now? Would you say it's getting creative, or are you like white knuckling it, just trying to go day to day? How has that process been?
No, managing a rotation like this doesn't bother me. I think most teams over the course of a season go through stages where you've got some injuries and you gotta get through it, and that's where we are. We've got to get through it. I think we have the depth and ability to get through it. Going to openers or modified bullpen days, that's pretty common around the industry right now. I think we have the ability to do that.
Jorge on the right.
David, a couple of weeks ago you said that it was too early. The trade market hasn't really gotten going yet. Has that changed? And the fact that there are other teams with high expectations who are underachieving, who could maybe look to add as well, does that make for a possible early trade partner?
I don't know. I do still think it's early to have very robust trade discussions. I think if we look at the history of midseason acquisitions, we really are talking about the majority taking place in a very concentrated period after the All-Star break, getting close to the end of the month in July. We're still a long ways away from that. Is there a specific set of circumstances this year that maybe accelerates that? I think that's possible, but we haven't seen that yet.
Howie.
David, as you move through these next 6 to 8 weeks, if there's not substantial improvement in the standings, would you consider continuing to dip into the minor leagues to get a look at certain prospects, whether it's Clifford or Winning or people like that, if only to better inform you as you get towards the deadline what you have there and where they might fit?
I think we have to be confident that those players are ready and can contribute. So my answer is yes. We're certainly not going to preclude ourselves from adding more from our minor league system. We believe we have very good players down there, some of whom aren't too far away, but we need to believe that they are ready to contribute under here. Understanding not everything is going to go perfectly when even a really good minor leaguer gets called up. But we have to believe that's the right time.
And not necessarily with regard to any one specific player. Do you have 1, 2, or 3 down there that you feel are on the cusp? Are that close to being ready, or is that still not where, are they still not quite where you'd want them to be?
I think we have players in the minor leagues right now that we would anticipate contributing at the big leagues over the course of the season. Very difficult for me to put a time frame on it.
Will.
David, you've been supportive of Carlos Mendoza and the coaching staff. There are other organizations do vocally support their manager or coach, still make changes. Why not just pick up the option and take this step forward?
I've been consistent. I'm not going to discuss contract status of coaches or Mendy. I've been really consistent about what I've said for Mendy throughout, and I'm going to stick with what I've said.
Jorge.
At what point do you expect Lindor to come back?
We're still unsure of an exact timeline. He is making progress, but I don't have an exact timeline to give you right now.
Jerry on the right.
Hey, David, you're 7.5 games out of a playoff spot right now. You're 7 out at the end of the long losing streak. You're 6.5 out at the end on May 18th after that good stretch you had. Are you worried the deficit at some point is going to speed up your timetable to decide whether to buy or sell at the deadline?
But at some point, you get close enough to the deadline where you have to make a decision. We don't believe we're there yet. We don't believe we're anywhere close to that yet.
Tony.
For lack of a better way to phrase this, what exactly is going on with Luis Robert right now?
Yeah, so he has had a series of injections. He is progressing through what I'd call rehab and training activity. He is not doing baseball activity. We do feel like we're making progress, but we're not at baseball activity yet.
What does he need to show before you get to that point?
I think he needs to continue to work through strengthening exercises, mobility exercises, without pain for us to progress him and for our medical staff to feel comfortable progressing him to baseball activities.
Andrew.
With Jorge Polanco, what does his kind of rehab process look like now that he's in the minor leagues?
Yeah, we're seem to be trending positively with Jorge. He'll play the next 2 days, probably then take a day off, and then go back out next week. And after that, it's probably sort of day to day on how he's doing. And I think it is possible we could see him on the next road trip.